Is the Samsung Galaxy A14 5G still worth buying in 2024? Well, in this video, we're going to find out. What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, and this is the Samsung Galaxy A14 5G in 2024. Now, the Galaxy A14 5G originally launched back in January of 2023, so at this point, this phone is well over 1 year old. Now, I want to make this video kind of looking back on it to see how this phone still stands amongst all the various other options out there, especially considering that the Galaxy A14 5G was one of the top-selling Android smartphones in the world in 2023. I feel like a lot of the time it's the more premium, higher end Android handsets that get all the publicity, but in reality, most people are buying phones like this one. But before I get too far into things here with the Galaxy A14 5G, let's see what all comes included in the box. So here's the box, you can see right there, A14 5G. Let's open this up and see what we're getting. Now you probably noticed already it is a slim box, and the reason for that is because there is no USB wall adapter, but you can see that we are getting a SIM card removal tool. And then also in this packet here, we are getting some literature, and then we're also getting a double-sided USB-C cable for charging and data transfer. Now with the Samsung Galaxy A14 5G, we're getting a very large 6.6-inch display. Now this display features PLS LCD technology, and this device does feature a 90 Hz refresh rate. So definitely having it be 90 Hz is a nice improvement compared to 60 Hz, which is kind of the bare minimum that you'd find with a smartphone. And let me show you actually really quick the difference here. So you can go into the settings on the device, go down to display, and then from there go down to where it says, let's see, where is it? Right here, motion smoothness. And you can see that it's set to adaptive by default, but if you want to set it to standard, it will force the phone to operate at 60 Hz, but in return for that lower refresh rate, you are going to be getting longer battery life. So I'll apply that, and then now you can see the phone is still usable, but things are definitely a lot more choppy when navigating around the device and doing various things like that. So I do prefer the adaptive mode here, so the phone will operate at 90 Hz when it makes sense. So something to keep in mind there. Now, in addition to this phone featuring that 90 Hz refresh rate display at 6.6 inches, the display itself is 1080p, and we're getting a PPI 400. We're also getting a 20:9 aspect ratio, so more narrow but taller form factor, and we're getting an 80.2% screen-to-body ratio. So pretty small bezels all throughout. However, the bottom bezel is a bit thicker, and then up top here we do have a water drop notch for the front-facing camera. Now the front-facing camera with this device is 13 megapixels, and definitely check out my full review that I did in the past of the Galaxy A14 5G to get a better idea of the photo and video quality from all the various cameras on this device. Now internally with the Galaxy A14 5G, we're getting 64 gigabytes of storage along with microSD card expansion. Now, I do feel like in 2024, 64 gigs is kind of the bare minimum. I know it wasn't too long ago that a lot of people thought 64 gigs was actually impressive, but as time has gone on, apps continue to get bigger and bigger, and because of that, we do actually need more internal space on our devices. Also keep in mind too that people are taking way more photos and videos than maybe they ever have in the past, especially since social media now is very much based around multimedia. So the way people have used their smartphones is different, and the way that people are now using their phones does require a bit more storage on the part of the smartphone. So I do feel like 64 gigs is probably enough for a decent amount of people, but I probably would try to get a phone with 128 gigabytes instead, especially if you want to get more longevity out of your device. Fortunately though, with the Galaxy A14 5G, this phone does support microSD card expansion, so you can always add in the SD card to offload and free up some of that internal space. Now with the Galaxy A14 5G, there's no wireless charging, but this device does feature a side-mounted fingerprint sensor, so let's give that a try right now. And you can see it's very fast and responsive. Let's try that one more time, and that works really well. And in addition to having the fingerprint sensor right here, this phone also supports face unlock, so I appreciate that we have multiple methods for accessing the device. Now taking a look at the camera module on this phone, we are getting a triple camera setup with a 50 megapixel main camera, a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera to assist with portrait mode, and a 2 megapixel macro camera for close-up images. And then there is portrait mode with both the rear and front cameras on the Galaxy A14 5G. Now here's how things look on the camera app on the Galaxy A14 5G. Now keep in mind that if you want to capture images at the full 50 megapixels, you do have to go up top here and tap on where it says 12 megapixels, and then it'll switch it over to 50. The reason why 50 megapixel photos is not the default is just because they take up a lot more space on the device, And certainly in many situations, having that feature is very useful, as you can see in this example, how clear everything looks. But for most people, they don't need that all the time, so it is nice that we at least have the option here. So if you always want to capture photos in 50 megapixels, you do have that ability, but if you want to take them in 12 megapixels instead, that's also not a problem. Now we can go over to the More tab, and we can access the macro camera, and with that, you can get very close up and have things be in really good detail. So that's excellent. Let's see how that turned out. So that's kind of an idea of what to expect from the macro camera. Not always super useful for most people, but still a nice feature to have. And then going over to portrait mode, we can get those nice blurred out backgrounds. We can also flip around to the front-facing camera to take portrait selfies. And then we can even take group selfies if we want to as well, so it does crop things out a little bit. We can also head over to the regular photo mode and take standard selfies too. So overall, there are quite a few different camera and photography and videography abilities with the various cameras here with the Samsung Galaxy A14 5G. I think the only thing really that's missing on this device, which we actually do get with the successor to this phone, is an ultra wide angle camera. But unfortunately, that feature is not present here with this device. Now, with this phone, we are getting 4 gigabytes of RAM paired up with the Samsung Exynos 1330 processor. Now, overall, I've been pretty happy with that processor. It's held up nice over the last year. And then when the phone did get its update to Android 14 and Samsung's One UI 6, clearly the phone has no issues running that version of the software. So it's not like going from Android 13 to 14 made the phone way slower. In many ways, it might even be a bit smoother. So I'm really happy to see that, and that's not always the case with different major Android software updates. Sometimes I've seen phones get updated to a newer version of Android, only to find that the phone ends up being a lot worse than it was before. Now, I did run a benchmark test using Geekbench 6, and here are the scores that I got from that test. So I got a single core score of 677 and a multi-core score of 1809. So what I recommend doing is running this test on your current phone and then compare your scores to these scores in the A14 5G to see how this phone compares to what you currently have, because you never know, your current phone could be faster than this device. But overall, I feel like this phone is best for people who maybe don't need a ton from a smartphone, but they want a good, reliable device from a reputable company such as Samsung. So at least you'll know that with this phone, it's not going to just totally break and no longer work. It's not a cheap device in the sense that it's of really poor quality. It's just that this phone is meant for a segment of the market that is way different from Samsung's most premium offerings. Now with this device, we're getting a 5,000 milliamp hour internal battery along with 15 watt fast charging. Now 15 watt fast charging is honestly barely fast in my opinion, and it's certainly better than 10 watts or 5 watts, but you're definitely going to want to use the full 15 watt fast charging when recharging this massive battery here on this device, just that it doesn't take all day to recharge the phone. So just something to keep in mind there. And then with the Galaxy A14 5G, this could be different based on the region that you're in, but with this phone, we are getting NFC, so you can use the device for tap and pay with Samsung Pay or Google Pay. I'm definitely curious to know though, is NFC important for you? It might not be as important as reviewers seem to make it. But taking a closer look at the hardware of this device, the phone is made completely of plastic besides the display, which is made of glass. I do like that we're getting a matte finish with the back panel here on the device, but this material is a little strange and kind of holds in like dust, if that makes sense. So it's really not the best material, but at the same time, I feel like you should probably be getting a case to pair up with this phone anyway, because plastic can definitely get very scratched up as time goes on. But the build quality isn't necessarily bad. The phone feels sturdy and everything. It's just that I wish this material in the back was a little bit different from what it is. But again, none of this really matters if you are pairing up the phone with the case. But taking a look at the left side of the device, we have the slot for the microSD card and SIM card. Then on the right side, we have volume up, volume down, and also the power button, which doubles as the fingerprint sensor. And then up top here, we have the noise canceling microphone. And then on the bottom of the phone, we have the 3.5mm headphone jack, microphone, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and the speaker. And then on the back of the phone, we have that triple camera setup, flash, Samsung logo, and that's pretty much it. But this concludes my video on the Samsung Galaxy A14 5G in 2024. I'm definitely curious to know what you think of this device and if you feel like it's still a worthy option. Definitely let me know in the comment section below. But this is Kevin here. Again, this is the Galaxy A14 5G, and I will see you in the next one. Take care and have a great rest of your day.